Hello guys, and welcome to another video. Now you're probably wondering what this low low profile desktop PC is doing is behind me. Can you remember when we took up a look at the low profile GTX 1050 Ti? And this was a good card. It did low to medium settings, and the price tag for these things is still around £100 to £120. So this is the bigger and better brother, the GTX 1650 low profile graphics card, and these are still pretty expensive still today, but I managed to pick up one brand new for £125, so I thought we'd check it out. So is the 1650 low profile any good? So we're going to find out that today. So here's the card, and I've took it out of the box and already pre-applied the low profile bracket because you get all the tools inside just to save time. Comes on with the long bracket. You have to take these screws off and put the low profile bracket on there. So let's just talk about specs on this thing. It consumes 75 watts of power. It has 4 GB of DDR5 memory, and I'm looking forward to this, guys. So I paid £125 for this, which is an absolute bargain. These things are still selling from like £150 to £180 here in the UK on the internet, which is an outrageous price in my opinion. You could get such a better graphics card for that. But I thought for £125 we would give this a go. So I'm going to slap this in the machine, guys, and then we'll talk when the PC is on. Alright, so we've got that card in there. The processor is an i5 4590. We've got 8 GB of DDR3 in there. You can pick up this sort of configuration these days, these HP desktops on eBay for around £100 with the i5, the hard drive, and the 8 GB of RAM. And you just put in either the low profile 1050 Ti or, like I said, the card we're testing today, the GTX 1650 low profile, and you're going to have a good gaming PC experience for about £225. Maybe if you pay a little bit more, maybe £250, but it's still going to give you a good gaming experience. Alright, so we have overclocked the card as well, because I've just dabbled around in Heaven Benchmark and got an overclock on this thing. So on the core clock, I have added 80 onto the core clock, and on the memory clock, the memory on this thing overclocked pretty darn well. I have put 800 on the memory, pretty darn impressive. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is test some games on this with you guys. And I'm going to change the quality settings in some games, so I think some games are still going to struggle. And let's see what £125. This is what I paid for it. Like I said, if you really want one of these things, they are seriously overpriced right now, so I'd wait if you really want to get one. But yeah, let's test it out. So first up we have Gears of War 5. I set the detail quality to high. And you can see, even in high settings, we're getting a pretty steady frame rate, above 60 FPS. Now we did get a few dips around the 55 FPS mark, but majority of the time it was above 60 FPS. This, like I said, this is one of the first games I actually tried on this card. I was very impressed, because I don't think the 1050 Ti could do this. So high details, 75 watts, the 1650. Off to a good start. Here we have the Outer Worlds, high settings, and as you guys can see, yet again, we're above 60 FPS. And the overclocks are taking effect as well because the memory is at 4800 and the graphics card hovers around the 1955 area most of the time. But yeah, this game is above 60 FPS again, and the graphics look absolutely beautiful in this game. Um, by this part, I would say honestly, guys, at this point of the video, I am already impressed. This is absolutely fantastic value. I still think the card is overpriced. There is better out there, but for 75 watts, this is incredible. I ran the in-game benchmark for Far Cry New Dawn, and this gave us a pretty good average of 62 FPS in high settings. There we have it, 62 FPS, with the minimum FPS being 47 FPS. So even again, this is a good player experience. Here we have Borderlands 3, and the quality was in medium settings. In high settings, we didn't get the above 60 FPS experience. We still had drops in the medium settings, sometimes below the 60 range, but they were only like split second drops. Majority of the time we're above 60 FPS in medium, and once again, you're gonna have no problems playing today's titles with this card with an old i5 4590. This is definitely a game I need to get back to and play. And Gears of War 5, it's not completed that yet, but so no spoilers in the comments, please. Here we have Battlefield 5 in the high preset again, and this was another game that did really well in high settings. So we're above 60 FPS again, in the 80s there, and all I can say is this is another game that looks really beautiful. The only thing is with this game is I really want to be playing with an RTX card for ray tracing for reflections, but it's not a killer for me, guys. It's I can still play like this, but I have experienced ray tracing, and I think it's like refresh rate. Once you've had it, you really don't want to be without it. But in today's games and where the RTX cards are at the minute, it just affects performance FPS wise too much for me to actually warrant going high in 2080 Ti. But yeah, getting back to the video, the GTX 1650 is doing pretty well here in Battlefield 5, and we're pretty much always above 60 FPS once again. Alright, so next up we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I run the in-game benchmark in medium settings, and that gives us an average of 60 FPS, guys. So once again, not too bad at all. 60 FPS for this title in medium settings, very impressive once again. Here we have Metro Exodus in medium settings. And we were getting some frame drops even in medium settings. Now this is actually quite a demanding game, so I weren't actually surprised. But the drops, the frame rate was in the 50s to the 50s to the like high 60s. When there's not a lot going on, it was always above 60 FPS. When enemies was around, they got the frame drops below 60 FPS. I wouldn't say it was a game breaker though, it definitely felt smooth and was a playable experience. Just that when there's a lot going off, you are going to get those frame drops under 60 FPS. And then the last game I'm going to test for you guys is Doom. good old Potato Doom in ultra settings. This played really well. Throughout this entire gameplay, always above 100 FPS in ultra settings. You can pretty much play this on a potato. It always does well on any hardware that I test. But, you know, I kind of threw this in as a joke at the end. Potato Doom. Alright guys, so let's summarise. Okay, so this thing actually did a lot better than what I actually thought it was going to do. In terms of the 1050 Ti low profile, it definitely is a big step forward in the low profile market. 75 watts, guys, that is pretty darn impressive. So would I recommend this? There's two sort of markets I reckon this is good for. You've got a low profile system like this and you just want to put something in to get something gaming. Either the 1050 Ti low profile, even the 1052 gig, or this is going to do great. You're going to get medium to high settings around the 60 FPS mark, and you're going to game absolutely fantastic. If you're a hardcore gamer and you want more power, you can get a 1066 gig. Even an RX 580 8GB, roughly for the same price. Which is the only downside to this. If you've got a PC that has a decent power supply and a decent processor, you can do better for the money and better for the performance. But like I said, if you've got a power supply, which where this is actually good for, a power supply that, let's say, 300 watts, or maybe a little less than that. I know some of these are actually 280 watts. This is absolutely fantastic for that sort of situation. So it all depends on who you are and who the build's for, if this is something that you're going to look into. Me personally, I think it's a great product. I know the market that this is aimed at, but this is not for me because I like the higher end stuff, the stuff that needs more power. But it was nice to mess around with, and I like to see things like this on the market. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Leave it a like if you liked it, get subscribed if you're not, and I'll see you in the next video.